Aloha, my name is Baron Brown and I'm a local realtor in the Waikoloa and Kailua Kona areas. A lot of our clients have been asking recently, what's the difference between Waikoloa and Kailua Kona? So we're going to cover the top 5 pros and cons of living in Waikoloa and Kailua Kona today. And just to clarify, we refer to Kailua Kona as Kona because there's a Kailua in Oahu and they're not to be confused. Since I always like to end on a positive note, we'll start with the top 5 cons of living in Kailua Kona. Number 1 is there's a lot of homeless people these days. So if you're walking around downtown with your kids, you might see some homeless. Number 2 is the traffic. Kailua Kona is getting busier and busier, and the traffic is something that you definitely have to time. Number 3, hospitals in Kailua Kona are not the greatest. You might have to drive anywhere from 25 or 35 minutes to get to the Kailua Kona Hospital because it's in South Kona. Number 4 con is there's more fog. It sits in a place where the fog just kind of hovers over Kailua Kona. There is less wind, which is great, but there is going to be a little bit more fog living in Kona than Waikoloa. Number 5 con is it can get really hot in Kailua Kona, especially in the summer months. So if you're not used to the heat, I recommend moving up to a higher elevation in Kona where you can be a little bit cooler. Now here are the 5 pros of living in Kailua Kona. Kona has more conveniences. You can go to Target and Costco easily. There's farmers markets, lots of restaurants, shopping, and so Kona is definitely more convenient. One of the nice things about living in Kona is you could live 10 minutes up the hill and still be really close to downtown and all the stores and restaurants, but you'll still have a remote feel potentially, which is neat. Number 3, the weather is always really great in Kona. So most of the time it's 83 and sunny, which is really, really awesome. No more cold winters. Number 4 pro is there's more school options for kids. Check out in the description below a link of public schools and charter schools and private schools. Number 5 is overall, it's a lot greener in Kailua Kona than Waikoloa. Now there are some green areas, it's not completely desolate, but there are a lot more green areas overall in Kailua Kona. It does rain a little bit more there. Here are the top 5 cons of living in Waikoloa. Number 1 is Waikoloa is known for its wind. Sometimes we call it Waikabloa. Now this does mean there's less fog, which is nice, so it tends to be sunnier and more clear, but it can be a little bit more windy, a little more dusty. It is a desert-like area, so just keep that in mind. Number 2, living in Waikoloa is there is a lot less conveniences. There's not as much shopping, restaurants, stores, just not as many conveniences. You still have to drive to Costco. That could be 30 or 40 minutes. Target's about 40 minutes, so you do give that up when you live in Waikoloa. Although Waikoloa is growing, we do have a large shopping center being built here right now. Number 3 con of living in Waikoloa is it's definitely more remote, and I would recommend having a car. Waikoloa Village is going to be 6 miles up the hill from the beach. It's definitely more remote than living in Waikoloa Beach Resort area, which is right along the beach. There's more restaurants and shops there. We are building a shopping center up here in Waikoloa Village, but it is more remote than Kona and not as convenient. Number 4 con of living in Waikoloa is there are less school options for your kids. Now we do have some good schools, but there's a lot less options. Number 5 con of living in Waikoloa is there's really only one road in and out of the village if you're referring to Waikoloa Village. Same for Waikoloa Beach Resort area as well. You just have the highway going both north and south. If you live up in Waikoloa Village, you can go one road down to the beach or up to the highway, which goes either up to Waimea or Kona. We did have some fires back a couple years ago and we had to evacuate Waikoloa Village. Quite rare. They did open an additional fire road, but it is kind of a bummer and I would consider that a con. Now here are the 5 pros of living in Waikoloa. Number 1 pro of living in Waikoloa is it is closer to the best white sandy beaches on the island, in my opinion, on the west side. The west side is known for its white long sandy beaches. We have Hapuna, which is a big state park, Mauna Kea Beach. It's only about 5 to 10 to 15 minutes max to get to the best beaches on the island, depending upon which part of Waikoloa you live in. And if you live down in the resorts, it has that resort-like feel. You could potentially just cruise around in a golf cart all day and get to the beaches and the restaurants and the shops, which is really neat. Number 2 pro of living in Waikoloa is that there are less homeless. Now this is due to the fact that it's more spread out. So, there's a positive and negative to that. But I really like the fact that when, we're cruising around Waikoloa with our kids, we have a family, that we're not running into any homeless people. Number 3 pro of living in Waikoloa is that it is closer to Hilo and Waimea. Waimea is only about half the distance. It's about 25, 30 minutes versus if you live in Kona, Waimea is an hour. Waimea is beautiful, lush and green. It sits, higher in elevation than Waikoloa, and they have farmers markets and some really great restaurants up there. If you go over to Hilo, you can hit the waterfalls and see rainbows over there, and it's also a lot closer to Hilo as well. So that's definitely a pro of living in Waikoloa. Number 4 pro of living in Waikoloa is there's a better hospital and it's closer. It is up in Waimea. It's North Hawaii Community Hospital, and it is connected with the Queens Medical Center over in Oahu, and it's considered a much better hospital than the one in Kailua Kona. Number 4 pro of living in Waikoloa is even though there's limited restaurants, there are some great restaurants up here. In the Waikoloa Beach Resort area, the Manalani area, as well as Waimea, you have access to some of the best restaurants on the island. The number 6 pro of living in Waikoloa is that there's no traffic. This is really, really nice. Kona definitely has more traffic than Waikoloa. I don't know if it'll always stay this way because, like I shared, we do have the one road either from Waikoloa Village, if you're talking about specifically, down to the Waikoloa Beach Resort area, which you can go to Kona South there or up to Kauai Hawi, a Kohala Coast area. And then you do have a road up going to Waimea as well, but there is one road. But right now, there's not really any traffic in Waikoloa, and it's really great. So that's definitely a pro of living in Waikoloa versus Kona. Aloha, once again, my name is Baron Brown. I'm your local realtor on the west side of the island, from the Kohala Coast down to Kailua Kona. If you have any questions about moving to Kailua Kona, please reach out to me in the description below. And if you have any comments, I'd love to hear what you think the pros and cons are of living in Waikoloa versus Kailua Kona. We'll see you guys next time. Aloha.